Good afternoon, everyone. New at 4, there was a big police presence at the Barnes & Noble parking lot this afternoon where police recovered a stolen vehicle. That happened just after noon. 26-year-old Martise Hill from Moorhead was arrested for having possession of that stolen vehicle. He's being held in the Cass County Jail. And police are looking for people responsible for a burglary and arson in South Fargo this morning. That happened at FPN Gaming. The business owner tells us 2 people broke into the building overnight, stole a number of items, and then set the building on fire. Surveillance video shows 2 people in hooded sweatshirts rummaging through the office area. One of them had a gas can with and lit a fire in another area of the building. Firefighters were able to contain the fire. They're investigating with the help of Fargo police. We'll have much more on this story tonight on Valley News Live at 5. In Wadena, an antique car, camper, and lawnmower were destroyed in a shed fire. Police say that happened over the weekend at the Wadena Flea Market along Highway 10. The owner says he was welding in the shed when a spark hit some spilled gas and started the blaze. Crews put out the flames, but then had to be called back when it reignited. No one was hurt. Early voting opened today in Fargo ahead of next week's June election. Voters will be using a method used almost nowhere else in the country. Valley News Team's Justin Betty joins us now live in studio with the details. How does that work, Justin?
Well, Stacey, in 2018, Fargo became the first city in the country to support approval voting, and this will be the second election to use this new system. Approval voting makes the biggest impact in wide fields, like Fargo's race for mayor, with 7 candidates, or the city commission race, where 15 candidates are running for 2 at-large seats. Now, in approval voting, rather than picking just the 1 or 2 candidates you like best, voters are encouraged to pick all the candidates they like, which can be as many or as few as they want. So if you like, say, 5 candidates for city commission, you can vote for all 5 of them rather than just 2. However, this is only the case in the city-wide races. The school board races will not use approval voting, and it won't be used for the congressional or, of course, the presidential races in the future. Stacey.
All right. Thanks so much, Justin. Well, we got a lot of wind with our sunshine on this Monday. Here's Hutch now with a first look at your forecast. Hutch?
Thanks so much, Stacey, and a good Monday, everyone. As we start the work week off, it was a little chilly once again. Notice all the blue colors on our low temperatures this morning. We saw some 30s up along the international border. Roseau County 39 there, Can-Do 39, and 40 in Grand Forks for a crisp start to the day, closer to 50 here in Fargo and Point South. Hey, we all warmed up in the afternoon. Pleasant temperatures, the low 70s right now in the FM area for our high so far today. 68 the high so far today in Bemidji. A perfect evening for most of us again, but we do have some changes to talk about. They won't begin for most of us until the overnight hours. Notice more clouds down here at the Dakota Magic Casino, and it's because of those clouds we're going to see those changes in the offing. Notice showers in the central Dakotas right now, moving in our general direction with those temperatures that are toasty out in the Twin Cities, 75 there to 40s in the western Dakotas. Your forecast for tonight shows temperatures will be very fair all evening long. A few high clouds filtering in, particularly as we go through the overnight. Quiet up north, another cool one with clearer skies there. Your hour-by-hour forecast for Tuesday shows a little transition. We'll have a chance for some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder as well. We'll time it all, tell you where the chances are best, and we'll look ahead for the rest of our work week here, Stacey, in just a few more moments.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. Congress returns from a Memorial Day recess today, and new gun safety legislation is one of the first agenda items to be taken up this week. Serena Marshall has details on that from the White House.
A fearful scene in Philadelphia Saturday as gunshots rang out. It was one of 11 mass shootings just this weekend where 4 or more people were shot. The violence across the country killed at least 15 and injured more than 60. Maureen Long says she broke down sobbing after the shooting outside her Philadelphia home killed 3 people.
I'm so outraged. I'm so angry. After Buffalo, Uvalde, here, right here, we have to do something.
A new CBS News poll shows nearly a third of Americans believe mass shootings are something we have to accept as part of a free society. Gun rights advocates say the way to keep people, including school children, safe is to provide more arms.
It only makes sense to harden the schools and provide people within the schools, the good people that work there that are willing to be trained to be armed.
President Biden has called on Congress to act, including an assault weapons ban, but he also acknowledges that's unlikely to happen in today's gridlocked Congress.
The president is not being very helpful. I think at the end of the day, this is going to come down to whether we can reach a consensus in the United States Senate. There are intensive discussions underway. It includes people who have not been engaged on this issue in the past.
Pennsylvania Republican Pat Toomey is part of a bipartisan group of senators who spent their Memorial Day recess working to see if they can craft a compromise on narrow gun control laws.
We are talking about a meaningful change in our gun laws, a major investment in mental health, perhaps some money for school security that would make a difference.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he wants to vote on gun legislation this week. Serena Marshall, CBS News, the White House.
It takes 60 votes to get any legislation passed in the Senate. If the bipartisan group can accomplish that, then the Democrats have the votes to pass a similar bill in the House. The House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack is promising to show Americans never-before-seen evidence of what they're calling the most violent assault in the Capitol in more than 200 years. It starts with a primetime hearing Thursday night.
The public hasn't seen it woven together, how one thing led to another, how one line of effort to overturn the election led to another.
The special committee of 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans had held a series of high-profile interviews and depositions with key members of former President Trump's inner circle, members of his family, and even accused rioters themselves. In recent court filings, the committee stated it has enough evidence to believe that Trump conspired to defraud the U.S. Republicans have largely boycotted the panel and defied subpoenas, questioning the panel's political motivations. The hearings are slated for this month. Also new for you here at 4, the trial for the 2 former Minneapolis police officers charged in George Floyd's killing will be delayed until January. Tu Tao and J. Alexander King had been due to go on trial next week on charges of aiding and abetting both second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the May 2020 death of Floyd. But the judge now says the delay is in hopes that additional time will improve prospects for a fair trial. Minnesota's Attorney General Keith Ellison, whose office is prosecuting the case, said it's unfortunate for the victims, the witnesses, and the community that the opportunity to seek justice has been delayed. The state was ready for trial next week and will be ready next January. Local groups are organizing a gun reform march this weekend in the FM area. It's to coincide with a number of marches held all across the nation on Saturday for the nonprofit March for Our Lives. The event will begin at 3 p.m. Saturday, June 11th at Trinity Lutheran Church in Moorhead. They'll march from the church to Fargo and back, a distance of about 1.8 miles, ending with a worship service at 4 at Trinity. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is facing a challenge from his own party today that ended with a no-confidence vote. This came after a series of scandals. At least 15% of the members of his own Conservative Party, a total of at least 54 members of Parliament, submitted letters saying they don't have confidence in their own Prime Minister. One of the biggest sources of frustration with Johnson has been the so-called Partygate scandal. These leaked photos show Johnson and members of his government holding social gatherings during the country's COVID lockdown. Critics say that was not only hypocritical, but also illegal. Johnson was fined for the affair. High inflation, like in the U.S., is also turning people against Johnson. The Prime Minister was publicly booed before a special service for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Though Johnson ultimately won the backing of lawmakers in that vote just an hour ago, 148 parliamentarians voted to oust the MP. If history is an indicator, Johnson may not be out of controversy yet. Both of his predecessors resigned following no confidence votes against them, despite winning the majority, just as Johnson did today. In the war on Ukraine, Russia has targeted Kyiv for the first time in more than a month. Missiles rained down on Ukraine's capital yesterday while both sides kept on fighting for control of a key city in eastern Ukraine. Chris Livesay is following the attacks in both regions.
A building burst into flames. Russia claims it struck tanks inside, donated from Ukrainian allies. But Leonid, a local resident, says there's nothing in there but rail cars. It's a repair shop, not a military factory, he says. Vladimir Putin is determined to show he can still strike whenever and wherever he wants by air, far from the battlefields of eastern Ukraine, which have crept into Olena Holovka's front yard. We lived peacefully, she says. Now we have nothing left. The war has never been bloodier. Ukraine says it's losing between 60 and 100 troops per day, roughly twice the number of American soldiers lost daily at the height of the Vietnam War. Russia now occupies 20% of Ukrainian territory, says Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who visited the embattled Donbas region far from the capital of Kyiv. In this deadly struggle of tug of war, Ukraine has recaptured territory in Severodonetsk and is intent on pushing Russian troops back to their border with the help of advanced long-range missile systems en route from the United States. Once they get here, Vladimir Putin is now vowing Russia will strike new targets in retaliation. But nothing has stopped him from pounding this country for more than 100 days, even turning hunger into a weapon. Russia has blockaded Ukraine's ports. Some 20 million tons of grain destined for the developing world now risk rotting on the docks. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Odessa, Ukraine.
In Odessa, the coast is full of mines. Ukraine says it can't move them until it gets more security guarantees from the West. In the meantime, those food shipments aren't going anywhere. Sanctions on Russian oil and gas in the summer driving season are putting pressure on prices at the pump. Gasoline prices continue to climb. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular gas hit $4.86 a gallon. California remains the most expensive state to fill the tank, with a gallon averaging $6.34. Prices are edging up locally too. North Dakota now averages $4.54 per gallon. In Minnesota, the average is up to $4.58. Stocks fell Friday as investors worried that signs of strength in the strong job market will keep the Federal Reserve from hiking interest rates. The Dow dropped 348 points. The Nasdaq tumbled 304 and the S&P 500 ended 68 points lower. The Fed plans to boost interest rates again this month and in July as it tries to tame inflation.